Have you ever felt a woman suddenly stop respecting you without any warning? One moment, everything feels smooth, connected, effortless. And the next, she's colder, quieter, less responsive, less impressed. She didn't announce it. She didn't explain it. She didn't even give you a chance to fix whatever went wrong. She just shifted. And you were left replaying every conversation in your head, trying to rewind time to find the tiny moment where everything changed. If that's familiar, stay with me, because what I'm about to share is going to hit painfully close to home. Most men don't lose women because they're not good enough, or not handsome enough, or not romantic enough. They lose women because they unknowingly break 5 psychological rules women respond to instinctively, silently, and consistently. And once these rules are broken, attraction doesn't fade slowly. It collapses quietly. Today, I'm going to reveal the top 5 things you should never do for a woman. Not because they're bad or toxic or manipulative, but because they destroy the very respect and emotional polarity that creates attraction in the first place. And I want you to listen closely, not passively, not casually, with intention. Because every man learns these lessons eventually. The question is whether you learn them early while you can still change your trajectory, or painfully after losing something meaningful. Before we dive in, I want you to interact with me. Quick question. Which one of these 5 rules do you feel you've broken the most in the past? Keep that in mind. We'll come back to it later. And if something hits you hard while listening, drop it in the comments. Someone else needs to hear it too. Now let's begin with the first big one, the one almost every man breaks without even realizing he's doing it. Point 1, never prioritize her over your purpose. Let's get this straight. Women are not repelled by men who care. Women are repelled by men who lose themselves in the process of caring. And the distinction between those two is everything. There's a psychological mechanism at play here that most men don't understand. A man's purpose is the backbone of the emotional safety he provides. Purpose is stability. Purpose is direction. Purpose is clarity. And without those 3, no woman feels grounded in a relationship, even if she can't explain why. Let me tell you a story you've probably lived in some version. There was a guy, let's call him Marcus. Strong guy, disciplined guy, had a routine, a vision, and a life that felt full. He worked out early, he had a side project he believed in, he made time for his friends, he had momentum. And then he met her, and she was amazing. Warm, soft, playful, curious, interested. She made him feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. At first, she fell for the man he already was. The man with structure, boundaries, priorities, and energy. But slowly, he started bending. He canceled gym sessions to spend more time with her. He put his project on hold to be more available. He said yes to plans he didn't want to attend because he didn't want her to feel disappointed. Little by little, he rearranged his entire life so she could sit in the center of it. And at first, she smiled. She appreciated the effort. She felt special. But then something shifted. She grew distant, less affectionate, less excited to see him. Conversations got shorter, responses got slower. Her eyes didn't light up the same way. Why? Because the man she fell for disappeared and was replaced by a version of him that revolved around her. Here's the painful truth. When a man abandons his purpose, a woman feels it immediately, and she loses respect before she loses interest. Women are not attracted to men who give them everything. They're attracted to men who give from overflow, not emptiness. Men who bring them into their world, not men who abandon their world for them. The signs you're breaking this rule? You feel obligated to say yes to her. You feel guilty choosing yourself. She becomes less engaged the more you prioritize her. You feel her slipping, but you respond by trying even harder. If any of that hit you, be honest. Are you living your life or are you living around hers? Take a breath, let that sit, and if it stings, good. It means you're waking up. Now let's move to the second rule men break all the time, especially the good guys. Point 2, never fix problems she should fix herself. Here's where almost every well-intentioned man sabotages himself. He tries to solve her problems instead of letting her process them. Men bond through solving. Women bond through expressing. And when a man jumps in to rescue, he doesn't create connection. He removes her accountability and kills polarity. Let me paint this picture. Imagine she comes home frustrated about work. Her coworker messed something up, her boss ignored her contribution, and her inbox is exploding. She unloads it on you, not because she wants you to fix it, but because talking helps her regulate. But you, being the caring, logical, solution-oriented man you are, say things like, "Why don't you just talk to your boss? Did you try organizing your tasks differently? You should tell your coworker to stop doing that." You mean well. You're trying to help. But here's what she hears. "You're not capable of handling this. Let me take over." And even if she nods or listens politely, you've unintentionally crossed a psychological line. There's an even more dangerous version of this, when a man steps into emotional babysitter mode. You know exactly what I mean. Supporting her every meltdown, patching every insecurity, protecting her from every consequence, running damage control for her emotional storms. And before you know it, you become the container for her chaos instead of the man she respects. The signs this is happening? She comes to you for comfort but doesn't change anything. You feel drained after every conversation. You feel like you're carrying both people emotionally. She isn't improving, she's becoming more dependent. Here's the truth no one teaches men. If you fix everything for her, she stops fixing anything for herself. And when she stops holding herself accountable, she stops holding you in high value as well. You want to support her, not save her. You want to listen, not manage. You want to guide, not rescue. Write this down if you need to. You are her partner, not her therapist. Now, let's move to one of the fastest ways men lose attraction without realizing it. Point 3. Never compete for her attention. A man who competes loses by default. A man who chooses wins without trying. This one hurts for a lot of men because it usually shows up when they're anxious, insecure, or afraid of losing her. But ironically, the actions they take to keep her are the exact actions that push her away. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that the moment she becomes slightly distant, slightly slower to respond, slightly less enthusiastic, slightly less available, you begin pushing harder? She replies in 2 hours instead of 5 minutes, and suddenly you send a double text. She seems less interested, and you plan something bigger to win her back. She posts a story and another guy reacts, and you feel this strange urge to outperform, to prove yourself, to show her you're the better choice. This is the moment every man fails or passes his internal psychology test. Because the moment you start competing, even subtly, you reveal something you didn't mean to reveal. My value depends on whether you choose me. And a woman's attraction drops instantly. Women don't want men who fight for their attention. They want men whose attention is worth earning. Men who are selective. Men with standards. Men who don't panic when someone else enters the picture because they know who they are. Let me give you a real example. A woman slowly pulls back because she's testing the waters, not maliciously, not consciously, but subconsciously. She wants to see if your self-worth collapses when her attention does. If you chase, she loses respect. If you compete, she loses interest. But if you stay grounded, calm, unfazed, steady, something powerful happens. She realizes you're not moved by scarcity. You're not afraid of losing her. You're not performing to earn her back. And suddenly, you become more attractive than every man she's ever known. The red flags, you're breaking this rule? You send more messages because she sends fewer. You try harder as she invests less. You over-explain yourself, hoping to look better. You worry about other men more than your own direction. If this is you, I need you to pause and ask yourself, am I trying to win her, or am I trying not to lose myself? And with that, we're going to leave a cliffhanger here, because the next 2 points, overinvestment and disrespect, are the 2 most dangerous mistakes men make. And the twist that comes after them ties everything together in a way most men never see coming. All right, let's pick up right where we left off. We've covered the first 3 rules: purpose, problem fixing, and competing for attention. Now we're stepping into the final 2, and these are the most dangerous, the most common, and the ones that silently destroy attraction faster than anything else. If part 1 hit you hard, part 2 might hit even harder. So take a breath, lean in, and let's keep going. Point 4, never overinvest before she earns it. Let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever felt like you were giving, and somehow receiving less and less in return? You put in effort, you show interest, you plan dates, you send thoughtful messages, you express your intentions clearly, and yet she becomes less responsive, less present, less committed, less invested. It doesn't make sense, right? You're doing everything right. You're doing everything you thought a woman would appreciate, and still she pulls away. Why? Because overinvestment too early kills the emotional tension that creates attraction. Most men don't realize this, but attraction in the early stages is built through earning, not receiving. When you give too much before she's emotionally earned it, you rob her of the psychological process that makes her value you. Let's break it down with a story you might recognize. There's a guy named Daniel. Good man, kind, loyal, intentional. He meets a woman he really likes. Let's call her Mia. He sees potential, so he goes all in. Long messages every morning, thoughtful compliments every night, surprise gifts, expensive dinners, constant reassurance, all within the first few weeks. And at first, Mia is flattered. But very quickly, something shifts. She becomes overwhelmed. She feels pressure she never asked for. She feels like she's receiving more than she has emotionally earned. And that imbalance triggers discomfort instead of connection.
And what does Daniel do when he senses her pulling away?
He doubles down. More effort. More reassurance. More proving. More energy. And she continues pulling back until she eventually disconnects. Here's the painful part. Daniel thinks he lost her because he wasn't enough. But the truth is the opposite. He lost her because he gave too much too soon. Women disengage when they feel they haven't had the chance to earn your attention, respect, and investment. Overinvestment removes mystery, removes challenge, removes anticipation, all the ingredients that build attraction organically. Here are the signs you're overinvesting. You send long texts and get short replies. You plan everything while she contributes almost nothing. You feel disappointed because she's not matching your energy. You justify her lack of effort by telling yourself she's busy. You're afraid that if you pull back, she'll disappear. Men often ask, so how do I know how much to invest? Simple. Match her. Mirror her. Respond. Don't overextend. If she's giving 30%, give 35%, not 90%. If she's contributing 50%, give 55%, not 100%. Investment should increase gradually, proportionally, naturally, not explosively. Remember this line. Interest grows through pursuit. Respect grows through pacing. Attraction grows through reciprocity. Now let's move to the fifth and most critical rule, the rule that makes or breaks long-term respect. Point 5. Never tolerate disrespect, not even once. There's a moment in every man's life, a moment he can remember vividly if he thinks back, where a woman crossed a line and he said nothing. Maybe it was a sarcastic remark. Maybe it was a joke that wasn't a joke. Maybe it was a dismissive tone. Maybe it was a boundary being ignored. Maybe it was eye-rolling, mocking, belittling, or talking down to you in front of others. And you let it slide. You told yourself it was no big deal. You didn't want to start a fight. You didn't want to seem insecure. You didn't want her to think you were dramatic. You told yourself, it's fine, she probably didn't mean it. But she did. She meant it more than you think. Because disrespect is rarely accidental. Let me tell you a story that every man needs to hear. A guy named Alex was dating a woman who had a sharp tongue. Not in a playful way, in a cutting way. One night at a gathering, she made a joke at his expense in front of his friends. Something about his job and how he wasn't that successful. Everyone laughed. Alex forced a smile. He brushed it off, but inside something broke, not just in him, but in her perception of him. Because here's the truth. The first time you tolerate disrespect is the last time she truly respects you. Disrespect is not a relationship issue. It is a reflection of how she views your worth. And the second you accept it, you set a permanent standard. Women test boundaries unconsciously, not to hurt you, not to dominate you, but to feel the strength, presence, and stability you bring. If she crosses a line and you stay silent, she doesn't think, oh, he's so understanding. She thinks, oh, I can't trust him to hold the line. The signs you're tolerating disrespect? You let her tone slide because she's just stressed. You accept sarcasm that makes you uncomfortable. You tolerate flakiness, inconsistency, or emotional chaos. You over-explain yourself when she questions your decisions. You feel small, drained, or resentful after interactions. Here's the truth you need to anchor deep in your chest. Respect is the foundation of attraction. Attraction cannot survive without it, not even with love, not even with history, not even with loyalty. When a woman respects you deeply, the relationship thrives. When she doesn't, the relationship dies, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but always inevitably. And here's the twist. Most men think they lose women because they didn't try hard enough, didn't give enough, didn't love enough, didn't sacrifice enough. But the truth? You don't lose women because of a lack of effort. You lose them because you abandoned the principles that make you strong. Women are not attracted to perfection. They're attracted to stability, to groundedness, to self-respect, to structure, to consistency, to boundaries, to purpose. When you stop prioritizing yourself, when you start solving instead of listening, when you compete instead of choose, when you overinvest instead of pace, When you tolerate disrespect instead of holding standards, you don't lose her because she didn't love you. You lose her because you stopped being the man she could trust, admire, and respect. This is the moment, right here, where most men finally wake up, because everything suddenly connects. It wasn't about her pulling away. It was about you drifting away from yourself. Your evolution as a man begins the moment you realize this. Attraction isn't something you earn from women. It's something you generate by who you are. Hold on to that. Before we move into part 3, the conclusion, the actionable steps, and the final message that ties this entire script together, I want to ask you something. Which of these 5 principles hit you the hardest so far? Drop it in the comments. You might be surprised how many men relate. We've walked through the 5 principles. We've peeled back the psychology. We've exposed the silent mistakes most men make without ever realizing it. Now, in this final part, we connect everything. We bring the message home, and we end with a transformation, not just a conclusion. So take a moment, sit up straighter, breathe deeper, because this last section is the one that stays with you long after the video ends. Throughout your life, you've probably thought, if I just love harder, if I just give more, if I just prove myself a little better, if I just try a little longer, she'll finally see who I really am. But now you know the truth. You never lose a woman because you didn't give enough. You lose a woman when you give in the wrong ways, at the wrong time, for the wrong reasons, and without the structure that protects your self-worth. Let's say it clearly and directly, with no sugarcoating. You lose women when you lose yourself. And you lose yourself when you forget the 5 principles we've walked through. So before we dive into actionable steps, let's summarize what you've learned, clearly, directly, and in a way that becomes a mental framework you'll never forget. The 5 principles, crystal clear summary. 1. Protect your purpose. If she becomes your mission, you lose your mission, and then you lose her. Your purpose is the backbone of your value. A woman doesn't want to be your world. She wants to join a man who already has one. 2. Don't fix her problems. You're her partner, not her therapist. When you fix everything for her, she stops fixing things for herself, and both respect and polarity dissolve. Listen more, solve less. 3. Don't compete for her attention. The moment you compete, you admit inferiority. You show scarcity. You signal insecurity. You're not here to win her. You're here to be worthy of choosing someone who aligns with you. Number 4, don't overinvest too early. Value must be earned. Effort must be mirrored. Investment must be proportional. When you give too much too soon, she feels pressure instead of excitement. 5, don't tolerate disrespect. Respect is oxygen. Without it, nothing survives. The first moment you allow disrespect is the moment attraction dies. Set boundaries early, clearly, and without apology. These 5 principles aren't techniques. They're not pickup strategies. They're not dating hacks. They're fundamentals. They're the foundation of emotional strength, masculine stability, and long-term respect. Now, let's bring everything together with the final shift. The shift that changes how you show up, not just with women, but in every area of your life. The core lesson: self-respect is the universal magnet. Here's the twist you may not have expected. The real secret to attraction isn't charm, looks, money, or confidence. It's clarity. It's self-respect. It's standard. its direction, its selectivity. A man who knows who he is, who knows what he stands for, who knows what he will and will not accept. That man naturally pulls people in, not because he's trying, but because he's aligned. Let me tell you something personal, something most men discover far too late. The moment you stop performing for love, you become magnetic. The moment you stop begging for attention, you become respected. The moment you stop chasing commitment, you start receiving it. The moment you stop tolerating disrespect, you start receiving devotion. Why? Because strength isn't aggressive. Strength isn't loud. Strength isn't turning. Strength is self-possession. A woman can feel it instantly. She can sense it in the way you speak, in the way you move, in the way you say no, in the way you protect your boundaries, in the way you stay grounded under pressure, in the way you walk away from disrespect without hesitation. A man who respects himself becomes a man others respect. And when you combine these 5 principles with that kind of internal alignment, you don't chase love. You don't fear losing it. You don't negotiate your worth. You don't collapse under emotional pressure. You don't cling to people who treat you like an option. You become the source of your own gravity. That is what makes a woman stay. That is what makes her feel safe. That is what makes her trust you deeply. That is what makes her choose you fully. Not because you begged, not because you fought for her attention, not because you sacrificed yourself, but because you stood firm in who you are. Actionable advice. What to do starting today. Everything you've heard so far is powerful, but power means nothing if you don't apply it. So here's your blueprint. Clear, direct, and immediately usable. 1. Recenter on your purpose. Ask yourself, what am I building? What am I becoming? Schedule your week around your goals first, not your relationship. You are the structure. Act like it. 2. Listen without rescuing. When a woman vents, your job is to be present, not to fix. You don't need solutions, you need understanding. Say things like, I hear you. That sounds frustrating. What do you feel you want to do about it? She doesn't need you to solve her world. She needs you to hold your own. 3. Match her effort. Text at her pace. Invest at her pace. Open up at her pace. You're not rushing. You're not proving. You're not chasing. You're aligning. 4. Establish standards early. If you don't want sarcasm, say it. If you don't tolerate yelling, say it. If you need consistency, say it. Boundaries aren't ultimatums. They're expectations for how you want to be treated. 5. Walk away from disrespect. Not with anger, not with drama, not with punishment, just calmly, quietly, confidently. Because nothing communicates self-worth louder than a man who refuses to shrink himself to be tolerated. If you implement just these 5 steps, your entire dating life will shift. Not because women change, but because you do. And once you change, everything else aligns. The final message: your evolution starts now. Before we close, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not unworthy. You are not too nice, too soft, or not enough. You simply weren't taught the principles of strength that create respect, attraction, and emotional polarity. But now you know them. Now you understand them. Now you can apply them. You're not behind. You're not late. You're not damaged. You're becoming the man you were supposed to be, one principle at a time. And when you live these 5 rules consistently, you won't have to chase love ever again. You'll attract it. You'll inspire it. you'll sustain it. Not through effort, not through sacrifice, but through alignment, clarity, boundary, presence, and purpose. This is your turning point. Your evolution starts today. If any part of this message hit you, even one sentence, let me know. Which principle are you going to apply first? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more content that keeps you grounded, sharp, and in control, like this video. Share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe so you don't drift back into old patterns. You're building a stronger, clearer, more grounded version of yourself, and I'm here to guide you every step of the way. Let's grow, let's evolve, and let's move forward with purpose.